First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for bullying my mother about her cheating? It happened yesterday, and to be honest, I don't think I am the a-hole. But my dad made me doubt it, so here I am. A little bit of context first. My mom cheated on my dad when I was 10 to 11 with one of his closest friends, and when my dad found out, she left us to live with her brother. It was a really rough time for our family, and to be honest, at the time I was sure I would never see my mom again. My brother and my dad forgave her pretty quickly, but I didn't. She and my dad ended up getting back together, however. I just couldn't get out of my head how much of a horrible mother she had been to me. She would often tell me that I was a burden, that I'll be with them all my life because no man would ever want me. I was so young when she told me that, and I'm still disgusted by it. She blamed me years later for my depression and often yelled at me because of it. She would throw a fit every time I forgot to do something that she asked me, even though I was already doing everything in the house. Cleaning, laundry, taking care of the dog, everything except cooking. And after all of that, she would still call me disgusting and messy. There's so much to add to the story, but I don't want it to be too long. Anyway, I'm 20 now, moved out, soon to be married and slowly getting better. We are staying at my parents' place only for a couple of weeks, but my mom finds every little opportunity she has to start a fight with me. Right after I took a shower, she would go in the bathroom and start yelling that it's too wet. I was feeling bad for 2 days, and she called me lazy and disgusting for not cleaning around, even though I helped her to paint all of the walls from my former bedroom. Anyway, yesterday we were watching a movie, and the character that I really didn't like got a happy ending. I was a little bit disappointed, and my dad asked me why, so I told him. The character was a woman who cheated on her husband and made him help her lover to keep a job that he was losing. I say that she was a bad person and that I would have liked it better if they just split up and learned something from this. This is when my mom went nuts. She started yelling that I have to shut my ungrateful mouth up, that she was sick of hearing me disrespect her. She says that if I don't like the show, I could just write my own story, even though it would probably be uninteresting and boring because I don't know how to write good characters. And ended up telling me that she doesn't want to be my mother anymore. I couldn't even say anything because she was yelling so much. And every time I tried to tell her that it wasn't about her, she just told me to shut up. My dad called me a manipulative bee and said that the fact that I tried to justify myself proved that I was guilty. Then my fiancé goes home and the fight stopped. She has been ignoring me since then and give me nasty looks every time I talk to her. I already apologized for hurting her feelings, but she just won't have it. So, Reddit, am I the bad guy here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You didn't mean it as a poke on her. The fact she took it as if you did is on her. Also, it wasn't your actions that led to consequences. All that said, it doesn't mean that there won't be bad blood about it. Lol, she saw a shirt that fit and decided to wear it. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. She made a mistake. She took offense, and you are allowed to have your own moral compass. She doesn't get to take the high road on you. Not ever, about the topic of cheating. Cheating is never a mistake. She was a consenting adult and was always an a-hole. Not the a-hole. You are fully entitled to your feelings. Your mom knows what she did. She's literally suffering the consequences of betraying her family. She also sounds abusive and toxic. I'd cut them off if I were you. They're not worth the hate and abuse at all. That's just it. She isn't actually suffering any consequences. The dad and brother forgave her immediately and then allowed her to be abusive to her daughter without consequence. I agree, though, that Opie should definitely cut them off and never look back. No one in that family is worth her time. My brother often took my side, but he's rarely around, living far from us. So if I don't tell him what happened, he just don't know. And it has always been hard for me to talk to him about my problems. He has a lot of things to deal with, so I feel like I would simply be one more burden for him if I talk. However, he had a violent breakdown on my 20th birthday about our parents and how they treated us when we were younger. So I don't think that he will really cut contact with me if I go low or even no contact with my parents. But for some reasons, I'm still afraid. Anyway, I'm gonna talk to him about it all next time I'll see him. Edit. Thank you all very much for your reply. To be honest, I thought that I'll get like 10 reply at best, so it's a big surprise to me to see so many of y'all responding. I've received some really good advice, and most of you have been really sweet to me in the DMs or in comments. Thank you all for your kind words. I really needed them. We're currently staying at a hotel. my significant other and I, and we're going back home as soon as possible. Tomorrow I'll call my brother to let him know about what happened and what will happen. From now on, I'm gonna go low contact with my mother and father as well. Reading all your messages made me realize how bad they messed up my life so far. Fiancé was in therapy for years, so is ready to help me find a good therapist and get some help about my mental health. Some people ask me about any future children I may have. Well, it was already pretty clear between significant other and I that once we'll have kids, we'll set some strong boundaries with my parents. But now I'm not even sure if I really want them around my children at all. Anyway, thank you all again for your reply. I'm also sorry because I just can't answer to all of you, but what you all write to me really means a lot. I wish you all the best and promise you to take your advices and do better for me, my brother, my fiancé, and our future children. Bless you. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they can figure it when they ask me to walk my sister home from her extracurriculars? I, 16 female, have a sister, 14 female. My parents favor her, always have. She's been doing extracurriculars since she was 5, whatever ones she wanted. Whereas I never got to do them until last year when I agreed to pay part towards it. And I have to walk there and back myself. Where we live, my sister's extracurriculars were called off for several months because of COVID, but one has started back up outside. And they wanted me to walk her home because it's a half-hour walk and it's kinda dark outside when they finish. I told them they should do it and they said they couldn't. I told them to figure it out since I never got that kind of help, and they were never afraid for me to walk home in the dark when I was her age. I pointed out that was only 2 years ago too. They said I was being mean to my sister because of issues with them. And admittedly, our relationship has suffered because I'm jealous, and she doesn't get how much it sucks to see a sibling so close in age to you get everything you didn't. I'm not saying they didn't feed or clothe me, but the favoritism has been a thing since we were really young. My parents are still saying I'm a jerk for how I handled them asking me for help. And I am just like, how can they say that when they're the cause of all this? They don't seem to care. They never care when I bring up how they treat us so different and how they gave my sister so much more than me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Stand your ground. You're entitled to making your choices, and I hate it when parents pick favorites. I've dealt with it as well at times, because, well, it sucks. Tell them if you don't stop picking favorites, then you can stop asking favors of me. You're not entitled to my help unless you earn it, or something along those lines. Definitely not the a-hole, though I'm a little torn on what Opie's supposed to do about it. On the one hand, she'll probably never forgive herself should something happen to her sister. On the other, there's the fact Opie's only 16 herself, so she's probably not a particularly effective deterrent either. Not the a-hole. They got her to go to those classes. Let them figure out a way to get her back too. It might sound a little rude, but I really hate it when parents have favorites among their own kids. Right? Like, if she was a lot younger, it would be different because, yeah, financials can change and overall style can change, but they never made the effort to give me even half the opportunities they gave my sister. Info. Have you spoken to your parents or in any way tried to address the difference you notice between the way they treat you versus sister? Edit. Not the a-hole. Oof. If you've spoken about this and they just don't care? Yeah, that sucks. Have you seen the experiment where they give monkeys different rewards for the same behavior? Yeah, they don't care. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not looking after a kid anymore? I, 27 male, used to live in a terrible apartment building, and I had a neighbor right next to me called Sarah, approximately 24 female, who had a 6-year-old son, Mark. I had lived there for 3 years and moved out about 2 months ago. My grandfather passed away and left most of his money/possessions to me and my sisters. It wasn't much after taxes, but I was able to use it as a deposit in an apartment. Sarah and her son moved in about 4 to 5 months after I did, and although she didn't talk about it, I got the feeling that her ex hadn't been the greatest. Police would come around occasionally to check if she was okay. The kid was scared stiff of loud noises and yelling, etc. I work from home, data analyst, so I was around a lot. Mark used to go to a preschool while she worked, and then after we started school, he was supposed to go to an after-school child-minding thing. Sarah works 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. as a nurse aide. Problem is that back in March of last year, his after-school thing closed, and then a couple months later, his school shifted all their learning online, while his mom only got busier because of the virus. I kept seeing him playing outside by the road or hanging off the balcony, and was a bit worried for his safety, so started offering him hot chocolate and keeping an eye on him. About a week later, Sarah came by and offered me $20. She was very apologetic and explained that her parents disowned her and she couldn't afford a full-time nanny for him, but also couldn't afford to quit her job to keep an eye on him, which was basically her only other option. My older sister is a nurse, and I'd seen her looking shattered and with bruises on her face from her masks, so I felt really bad for them and offered to keep an eye on Mark while she worked, since I was at home anyway and he's a cool kid. Long story short, I told Sarah in October I was moving out, and she was distraught about what she'd do with Mark. School/childcare still hadn't reopened here yet. I offered for her to drop him off at my new place while she was working, as a temporary solution during the virus. This had been working for the last couple of months, until I received a letter from a lawyer basically informing me that Sarah was filing for child support against me, as I had taken on a paternal figure in Mark's life. I immediately called Sarah and told her to come get Mark. We had a massive fight because basically she thinks I can afford it, so why shouldn't I pay it? After she picked him up, I blocked her number and contacted a lawyer who told me that I would probably be fine, as I'm not his dad and I never offered to take care of him in any financial way. Sarah's been in touch with my sisters who think I'm doing the right thing not paying, but I'm being a jerk by refusing to look after Mark anymore. I feel horrible since he's probably back to being stuck in those crappy apartment blocks again, but I also don't want to risk a court case. Am I the a-hole for refusing to look after him while she works? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, you were being nice, and Sarah decided to take even more advantage of you than she already was. The audacity of this lady. I seriously cannot even believe it. My jaw dropped reading this. I'm sorry you and Mark are dealing with this. My reaction exactly. Shocked. He is being a good guy, and the poor kid has to suffer and lose his buddy because the mom is greedy. Sad. This is exactly why people don't want to do nice things. Not the a-hole. Why on earth? In any case, she burned that bridge. Sad the child will suffer for it. Not the a-hole. And you did the right thing. You did a lot for her, and she decided to abuse your friendship. You have to protect yourself, and if you continue to look after Mark, it would be a tacit agreement to her demands of the lawsuit, and would no doubt work against you. I think you could argue that he was just a babysitter. She has no claim here. It's like if the parents I nanny for tried to pull this stunt. No one would force a babysitter to pay child support. Based on what Opie described, he was a cheap babysitter. Tiny update. Thank you all for the lovely messages. I can't see some of them because Hereditary keeps popping up, but I'm trying to read all of them. I've said this a few times in the comments, but we'll put it here too. After what has happened, I have contacted Child Services. I haven't had an update from them, but I will post here if I hear anything. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for taking my violin back from my sister after she broke my laptop and couldn't pay? She couldn't do her band concert. I am 22 and went home to visit family for a few days. I brought my laptop, and when I was home, my 17-year-old sister broke the screen by coming into my room when I was out, which I hadn't wanted her to do anyway, tripping over a chair leg and knocking the laptop off my desk to the ground. I found out it would be $400 to have it fixed, and I asked my sister for the money. She babysits and does other work to make money. She said she needed the money for college and couldn't give me her savings. So I asked my parents if they'd ask her for money, and they said no, because it was a mistake. I took the violin I'd let her borrow back. I played violin in high school and bought a nice one for myself with money I'd made at a summer job, and decided to sell it to pay for the laptop screen. I am on a tighter budget and didn't want to be out that money. I didn't tell my sister I was selling the violin because I didn't want to fight. A few days after, my parents called me asking where the violin was, and I said I'd sold it to pay for my laptop to be fixed. They were mad because she had a virtual band concert with her high school band group that night, and the violin was missing with no warning. They were accusing me of stealing, and I said that it wasn't stealing because I owned the violin and was just lending it. Plus, I wouldn't have had to sell it if my sister or my parents had paid to have my laptop fixed. But they're really mad because band is something my sister was having on her college admissions, and now she doesn't have an instrument. She can't participate. She is missing several events, and my parents said I was sabotaging her college admissions. I said it wasn't about that. It was literally just me needing money, and the violin was a convenient thing of mine to sell. Am I the a-hole for selling the violin I was lending my sister to pay for a fix to my laptop when she broke it? Not the a-hole. It's yours. She's got money saved. She can buy her own violin. Also, he sold his violin to pay for damage she caused to his computer. So she, or her parents, still owe him for the cost of repairing the computer. Not the a-hole. Exactly. It's not like he stole her property to sell to repair. I don't know why people were saying he was the a-hole when he was kind enough to let her borrow the violin in the first place. Not the a-hole, but barely. Like, you did your part. You asked your sister, your parents, and they basically left you out to dry, which I would be absolutely furious about. The barely part comes in because it was your violin, but you should have said something. Like, gonna sell the violin to pay the screen tomorrow. If you need it, buy it. But like I said, you went to your family, and they basically said screw you. Not the a-hole. I bet if he'd spoken up, though, his useless parents wouldn't have let him sell the violin. Everyone sucks here. Neither instruments nor laptops are cheap. Your parents and sister absolutely should have chipped in to repair your broken laptop, and or made a plan to return your violin to you to sell to cover repairs after they bought your sister her own instrument. Frankly, if she's relying so heavily on her music as a pathway to college, she should have her own instrument rather than a loaner from someone else who might want it back at any point in time. But taking the violin when she needed it for a concert, not telling her and leaving no time for her to obtain a replacement so that she could attend concerts which are usually mandatory, was a horrible thing for you to do. Edited to Ed, just want to clarify that it's to take the instrument without telling anyone that is the issue with Opie's behavior in this situation. Taking it back is fine, but Opie had a choice. Tell them you're taking it, or don't tell them. I can't think of any reason that isn't a-holish for not telling them. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.